Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Glad to have you here. All right, everybody, have a seat. Have a seat. Come on now. All you stragglers, come on in and sit down. We appreciate you very much. Don't forget, on your way into the auditorium, click that like button. Flip it up as you head in. Sit down to your seats. Have yourself some of the free popcorn and refreshments, or maybe a bowl of cereal. It is bright and early. A little bit of OJ, maybe some eggs and bacon for those who need a little bit something more hearty. Good God, I went to Hy-Vee breakfast, took my baby there last week, and had a delicious chicken fried steak and their crispy potatoes. We were kind of in awe at the Hy-Vee breakfast there last week. So, I don't know. If you're listening to us at the Hy-Vee this morning, wow, you're in luck. The only thing you're missing, a delicious cup of Founding Flavors coffee. We're glad to have you here. The Wake Up America show, every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We stream this show live. It's a 5-day-a-week, 2-hour in the morning talk show about all the news that you can use. Maybe some things you could lose, but we have a lot of fun here, and we hope that you'll make us a regular stop for your morning listening and viewing pleasure. It is my pleasure, after all.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Oh, God. From now on,
It's going to be America first, okay? America first.
America first, baby. Thank you to Levin214 starting off this morning. Great.
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise. Please.
Can you suck it?
What?
Thank you, Levin214, for the donation this morning to get the ball rolling. Of course, you guys know the drill by now. If you're a regular, the Wake Up America show produces a bonus history documentary or a 5-minute mini documentary every day that you can unlock with your donations, either through Rumble Rants, through YouTube donations, Super Chats, or by visiting apforlibertyshop.com and making a qualified purchase. Okay, so there you go. And thank you, Levin214, to unlock today's mini documentary. This week's theme is the guns that won. And all 5 days of the week this week, we're going to have a brand new mini documentary produced for you to unlock about the guns that helped win the American Republic. So if we raise $50 by the end of the show, either in Rumble Rant donations or in AP for Liberty shop purchases, then you'll unlock today's documentary. And if you don't, it goes away forever.
God!
Yes.
No, God, please, no!
They're going to put you all back in chains.
That's right. We'll put you all back in chains. Thank you, Mr. President. We've got to talk about what's happening in the world. First up at the top of the news, RFK Jr. just absolutely trolling the left. The left is freaking out, running around, screaming with their heads cut off. RFK Jr. said that Joe Biden is absolutely a much worse threat to democracy than Trump. He said it to Aaron Burnett on CNN of all places. You just love it. I've got the clip for you. We're going to laugh about it. He's driving him nuts. The left is freaking out about RFK Jr., and I love to see it. So we'll talk about that. I'll play this clip this morning, and we'll go through it. I've got another story this morning I'm hoping to have time to get to. That is Generation Z is taking up the skilled trades in big numbers. Gen Z is becoming the tool belt generation. More young workers are going into the trades as disenchantment with the college track continues. And rising pay and new technologies are shining up plumbing and electrical jobs. That's good to hear. We need it. A good plumber is hard to find. I say this as a husband whose wife broke the incinerator garbage disposal the other day by putting her dirty boots in there and the pebbles screwed it up. So can't fix it. Probably need a new one. We'll see. Anyways, just sorry, Steffi, to call you out. I'm just, riffing this morning. But of course, we love our smoking hot redheaded libertarians, sexy pregnant wifey. Did you guys see her new show that she launched yesterday? Were you guys excited? If you missed it, what are you doing? Steffi has got a brand new show, Hustling and homemaking. And you can view it over at apforlibertyshop.com. At the very top of the page, you'll click the button. It'll take you to the video. Steffi's got a new weekly video series called Hustling and Homemaking about her adventures in pregnancy and being a new mom and taking care of a family and a home while also having a career on the side. So visit apforlibertyshop.com and check out Steffi's new show, Hustling and Homemaking. We love you. We love you. We love you. We love you, Steffi. So those are the two big news. Cliff Maloney is going to join us this morning at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. Can't wait to have the lovely Cliff Maloney. Can't wait. I know, we're excited. Cliff Maloney is going to be joining us to talk about the top 10 Senate races around the country. We're going to keep you informed about what the stakes are, what the odds are, who the candidates are, news that you can use. Joining us live at 7:30 a.m. Central Time this morning. You can see the Wake Up America. You can see Cliff Maloney on the show. Our friend Burt Whistle is asking about the white thing in front of your mic. That is not a white thing. That is a yellow thing, and that is the rooster joining us there. So see him there on the set. There's the rooster. Yes, that's our mascot, the cock, for the Wake Up America show. The cock is the official mascot for the Wake Up America show. The last show I was on, it was a squirrel, but for this show we have got a rooster. Give it up for Reginald the Rooster. Yes. Do me a flavor. Join us at 8 a.m. when Camellia Peterson is on the show. CJ. Talk about the big story. JK Rowling says, arrest me, come and take it, Malone LaVey. JK Rowling dares cops to arrest her for misgendering trans people after a new woke hate crime law passed in Scotland. Her next book could be Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Transcaban. Thank you to New York Post for that subheadline there. So JK Rowling daring police in her native Scotland to arrest her for misgendering transgender people after a new woke hate crime law took effect on Monday. She wrote, freedom of speech and belief are at an end in Scotland if the accurate description of biological sex is deemed criminal, she wrote on X. She says she's currently out of country, but if what she has written here it qualifies as an offense under the terms of the new act. I look forward to being arrested when I return to the birthplace of the Scottish Enlightenment. Give it up for J.K. Rowling. She's got cojones, or actually she doesn't. If I say she's got cojones and she doesn't have cojones, but she says that she doesn't have cojones, does that still count as, does that break the law in Scotland? Good God, these places, these formerly Western first world nations are starting to turn into like third world poop holes where it's kind of like, you can't tell whether or not you're living in the Gaza Strip, for example, in some sense. Anyways, let's talk about the news. Some other news. Where's the clip? Okay, RFK Jr. trolling them all with the responding Democratic attacks that he's just.
But do you really believe that when people talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses, do you really think that is an equal? Evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the
Damn, RFK. Dude, can you imagine? Like, their heads have got to be exploding over there in the control rooms. As somebody who used to work in the control room at Fox Business Network, I can tell you this: they do the producers and the ideologues who are in the back of the room who are watching the segment right there are just like grinding their teeth.
Court of Appeals, and now before the Supreme Court. It shows that he started censoring not just me. 37 hours after he took the oath of office, he was censoring me. No president in the country has ever done that. The greatest threat to democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics.
Damn! RFK calling him out. I mean, this guy is their worst nightmare and our best friend. We love RFK. I mean, I would never vote for him, but he's doing a good job stirring it up. Keep it up,
President
Robert.
Biden, for the first president in history, to use his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. He's weaponizing the federal agencies. Those are really critical threats
Donald
to
Trump
democracy.
Damn. Now, how is the... and this is kind of a tangent here and a sidestep, but I mean, how are the Libertarian Party, how are they going to match that kind of rhetoric and clout of RFK Jr.? I mean, he really is positioning himself as the third-party candidate this year. I don't know how the Libertarian Party is potentially going to mount somebody that could actually get more attention and raise more money. I mean, he kind of is the third-party candidate this year. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? You can send me a text at 573-319-1586. Again, the text lines are open at 573-319-1586. Thank you to Hunter Human, who donated a couple of bucks in the tip jar today. Appreciate you, Hunter, from Argentina. Viva la libertad, carajo. Glad to have you here this morning live, and we are now $12 towards our $50 goal this morning to unlock the guns that won today. And thank you all very much, by the way, for offering Stephanie and I the advice on how to fix our InSinkErator garbage disposal in the Rumble chat. You all rock. Awesome. Okay, so when I say the left is freaking out, I mean it. This Victor Shi character over on Twitter, he's an intern at the White House, comms intern for the Democratic National Committee, youngest Biden delegate at 20. He's like a, little Democrat, twerp. Posted this. He says, "Good grief. CNN just gave RFK Jr. a national platform and threw easy softball questions at home with no pushback when he answered with lies and conspiracy theories." That's how you know he was telling the truth. They should have cut the interview, but they didn't. Cut him off. Silence him. Silence him. But they didn't. CNN continues failing its viewers and our democracy. Our democracy! Reading things like this make me feel like the Democrats are saying,
do not come.
I'm gonna come.
How dare you?
Oh, Victor Shi, the little Democrat twerp, says the interview was so disgusting and revolting. At one point, RFK Jr. literally said, despite Trump trying to overturn the 2020 election and that he is a threat, President Biden is an even greater threat. Are you kidding me? What? What alternative reality is he living in?
God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
Things are going so well. And Victor Shi continues and finishes saying, and plus invoking his family's name. Yeah, not your family, Victor Shi. Multiple times, despite his family not supporting him and saying somehow that voting machines aren't reliable. Seriously, come on. After the first lie and ludicrous claim, the interview should have ended. Instead, he got a national platform to lie. Nuts. End. Yes. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're already having tons of fun. Are you enjoying the new sound clips this morning? Yeah? Am I keeping you entertained with my funny little sound
They're
clips?
gonna put y'all back in chains.
Yeah, we're going to put y'all back in chains. The Wake Up America show is brought to you by viewers and listeners just like you. When you click that like button, you're helping to offer us a blessing.
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise.
If you could bless me with something money-wise, you can receive a blessing in return. When you visit apforlibertyshop.com during the show and you make a purchase of any of the products that you've been eyeballing, and I know you have, you're going to help to unlock that bonus content today so you can find out which gun One, the Wake Up America show produces a little mini documentary every day to have you incentivized to either make a purchase from the shop or make a donation through Rumble or through YouTube, however you would like to do so. And if you do, then you will help to unlock that mini documentary for today. Don't you guys want to find out which one it was, which gun it was? I think you do. Drummer Goy is enjoying the nice new sound bites. Yes, you know I'm always doing something every day to make the Wake Up America show awesome. You know that I'm always doing something brand new every day, something new to the show. You guys, Steffi and I were talking about this last night about how we launched the new show yesterday, and then we've got this new product line coming this week. Oh, I'm teasing it out. You guys are going to be excited to see it with AP for Liberty Shop. A beautiful, beautiful set of new products that I think you guys are really going to love. Steffi and I, whenever we know that we want something that we're producing for the shop, we think we're going to have a hit on it. So, and we were talking last night as we were laying in bed about how the Wake Up America show crew, especially the regulars who come here all the time, like it seems like every day we have a new announcement, something exciting going on, new product launch, new show launch, Steffi's show, right? Something is blowing up on the Wake Up America show. I just want you to know that we are always thinking about you, the audience, so that when you come in here and watch the Wake Up America show, every day it's a new program, new topics, new guests, new content. Something that you come in here is new, it's fresh, it's exciting, and you get to hang out with a bunch of really cool people in the Rumble chat because you guys are awesome and we have a lot of fun. We make real friends here. We've also been growing our audience over at x.com. We appreciate that very much as well. Make sure that you do click that little heart button and then repost it so that other people can come here and join us on the program today. We've got a lot more content to go. Of course, we're going to have Cliff Maloney joining us here in a little bit less than 10 minutes. I'm excited to talk to him about the biggest Senate races that are happening around the country. He'll be sharing his thoughts with us here in a little bit less than 10 minutes. You know that MSNBC is feeling bad about how things are looking when they start the segment, not with the news, but with an oof. Take a listen.
The popular now.
Oof. One more time. I need to put that as a soundbite. What do you guys say?
The popular narrative right now is that Donald Trump is broke, that he has no money to pay these astronomical judgments or even fund his campaign. And it is true that Biden is lapping Trump when it comes to campaign cash. However, the former president might have an ace up his sleeve. His media company, I can't even believe I am saying this to you, is currently valued at $6.6 billion. Oof, the popular narrative right now.
Oof, oof. Oof. Oh, one more time. Oh, wait, one more, wait. Oof. 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 The popular narrative. Thank you very much, Nancy. She just bought a nice little onesie over at the AP for Liberty Shop store this morning. We appreciate you. Thanks, Nancy. That means that we basically only need like $20 more raised by the end of the show to unlock today's bonus content. So if you'd like to follow in her footsteps, visit ap4libertyshop.com this morning and you'll help to unlock today's bonus content. Can you bless me with something?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise. Please.
Can you suck it?
Oops. Really hit that cutoff button there. Oof. The popular narrative here. What does Hillary Clinton have to say about
Biden
these
versus
days?
Trump. We know that.
It is. It is.
What do you say to voters who are upset that those are the two choices?
Get over yourself. Those are the two choices.
Okay.
Yeah, love that.
Right? And
good.
It's kind of like one is old and effective and compassionate, has a heart, and really cares about people, and one is old and has been charged with 91 felonies.
Yeah, okay.
I mean...
Yeah, because charged with 91 felonies under the new democratic form of lawfare that we're engaged in, that's as good as guilty, right? Yeah, I think not. Being charged, that's how the Democrats say if you're this is what we live in now. You get a trial by media far before you ever get an actual trial. when you're charged, that's just as bad. Being charged is just as bad. But people are waking up to it. At a town hall meeting in Chicago this last weekend, one citizen stood up to register her disapproval with the Biden regime.
I'd like to start off with something Edward Snowden, a whistleblower, once said. He said, when exposing a crime is treated as committing a crime, you are being ruled by criminals. Everyone in this room recognizes that what's happening surrounding the nonstop influx of illegal aliens is criminal.
Yes.
Everyone recognizes that something evil is among us, and Americans are not ready for the fundamental impacts this will have. In fact, we can't even fathom it because we've never seen anything like this.
Right.
Yeah.
We have an administration that is run by criminals who hate America.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
why they protect these criminals.
Yes.
Police have been instructed from above to not mess with them.
Right.
So no matter what these criminal aliens do, they're always released. It's not an accident. This is by design.
Yes.
And we have a garbage media that gets paid for lousy coverage. We have a media that protects criminals.
Yes.
It seems as if every level of government has been bought out.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes you wonder how many seats in government have been
I'm loving the mm-hms, the commentary on the side. Man, this lady's killing it, tearing it up.
foreign influence. And we have a government that uses language to weaponize the masses.
Mm-hmm.
They're not illegal aliens, they're asylum seekers.
Right.
They're refugees.
Right.
And they throw these terms around so that the people of America feel guilty. Because nobody wants to be a bad person. We all aim to be good. But there's a distinction between goodness and tolerance. There's a difference between goodness and naiveness. And
That's
unfortunately, I believe the majority of Americans are not acting out of a spirit of goodness, but rather out of a spirit of cowardliness and naiveness.
Yes.
Damn straight. Give that lady applause. This young lady standing up at the town council here in Chicago, arguing against being. That's what a lot of it is. It's like that's why I'm so inspired by what JK Rowling is doing. Is that more people need to stand up and do what this woman is doing, but they're not doing it because they're afraid, right? And they're passing these bills like that hate speech law in Scotland and places here in the United States where they're trying to silence us. They want us afraid so that we won't fight back. The tyranny is encroaching. I liken it to this. I was having a conversation last night with one of my fellow Donald Trump delegates here, and we're getting ready for the congressional convention this Saturday, where we'll all get together and vote on the platform for the future of the Republican Party in the state of Missouri. And I was thinking about the caucus that we all gathered together a few weeks ago and nominated our delegates, of which I was one. And I will go to the convention this weekend as a duly nominated delegate from my county. We go to the congressional district, and there we will all gather with other delegates in our congressional district. But there was this moment at our caucus several weeks ago when, Stephanie didn't know that, first of all, she didn't know the rules. And that's what a lot of people struggle with. They don't know the rules in their society. They don't know that they can go to their town councils like this young lady and step up and stand up and have their voice heard, a lot of them. And two, they're afraid to do so because they don't know what the backlash will be. They don't know the rules and they can't play the game because they haven't been educated to do it. You don't learn to do this in high school. They don't teach you in high school and college how to defend your rights or how to engage in civic activism. They don't teach you how to step up and do what's necessary unless you're a Democrat, in which they'll make sure that you get the right meetings, and then George Soros will write a check and you'll be carted off with a professional sign that will be put in your hand to protest against anything that might actually advance liberty here in the United States. So, one, people don't know their rights, and two, people are terrified to exercise them. I think people are just afraid to speak up. Even the people who are politically active at our Republican Cole County caucus, I think a lot of people probably didn't speak up because they just didn't know, one, that they could, and two, even if they thought that they could, they were afraid. They were nervous. There's something that happens to us when we get in crowds, that we become terrified to be the person who stands up and speaks out. I don't know what it's going to take to motivate more people to be like this young lady, but bravo, here. I appreciate that she's got the guts to do it. Looks like we just unlocked the bonus content. Thank you, Urs Mommy. I'm going to play for you today's mini documentary, The Guns That Won. And when we get back, we'll talk to Cliff Maloney about the Big Ten Senate races around the country on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Thank you, Urs.
The Wake Up America Show's bonus content. This week's model. The marketing for the revolver featured an engraved naval battle scene between Mexico and Texas, boosting its appeal, especially in Texas, where their guns had sold well before. This revolver outshone its predecessors by marrying power with practicality, making it a favorite over the heavier Dragoons and the smaller 49 pockets. Its introduction significantly impacted the use of single-shot pistols in the West. Among its features, the attachable shoulder stocks on some models added to its versatility and appeal. In its time, the Navy Colt was a substantial advancement in revolver development, noted for its range and accuracy. Even after the introduction of Colt's single-action Army revolver, the Navy model remained popular, with many units converted to fire metallic cartridges. Famous figures like Wild Bill Hickok preferred it, attesting to its reliability and effectiveness. The Navy Colt was not only significant in the American West, but also saw international use by military and civilians alike. It commanded premium prices, especially in areas like the California goldfields, underscoring its high demand and esteemed status. In military service, the Navy Colt proved its worth on numerous occasions, including notable use by Lieutenant John Bell Hood against Comanche warriors. Its reliability and firepower made it a preferred choice for soldiers and officers. Civilians, too, appreciated the Navy model long after its production ceased, relying on it for self-defense and as a practical firearm. Its legacy endured through the introduction of the New Model Navy, or 1861 Navy, although the original 1851 model continued to outsell its successor. Even today, the 1851 Navy Colt's design and historical significance are celebrated, with it being one of the most replicated black powder handguns. Its enduring legacy speaks volumes about its impact and importance in firearms history. This comprehensive look into the Colt 1851 Navy revolver illustrates not just its technological advancements, but its profound influence on military, civilian, and cultural fronts. It remains a symbol of innovation and a testament to the era it represents.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Man, I love this audience. You guys are so much fun. Love reading the Rumble chats. I'm glad you guys are enjoying that bonus content. It's just been utterly transformational how much you guys have stepped up, chipped in, and helped us to grow a brand new segment of our financial base. The Wake Up America show is supported almost entirely just by viewers and listeners like you. We don't have the big sponsors, although I think we might have one coming up soon. And that definitely is going to be transformational. But the Wake Up America show has been streaming live for a year and a half now on A Wing and a Prayer, a dream of me and my sweet redheaded libertarian wife who humored me when I said I'm going to go quit a job with health insurance and start my own podcasting business. And now here we are. Look at you. Look at us. All right, crack one open. How about a nice mimosa or a Bloody Mary? That's how we do things here. We believe in liberty, economic freedom and personal liberty, that is. And so does my next guest. His name's Cliff Maloney, former Ron Paul and Rand Paul staffer. You don't get more liberty than that. Joining us live now this morning on camera to talk about the top 10 Senate races around the country. I think he's got a little special interest, though, in Pennsylvania. Big Ten. How you doing, Cliff?
I'm great, AP. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, glad to have you here, Cliff. I could think of no one better than to discuss the big news which people can use. The Big 10 Senate races to watch in 2024. This really is kind of the crux of the battle for people who want to see limited government, at least in the short term. With the Democrats holding a one-seat majority, they're defending seats from Maryland to Arizona. You know, control of the Senate could flip to the GOP, but we've got some severe disadvantages. Money is a big one. Name ID for some of our candidates that are running in these states against entrenched incumbents. Do you want to kind of like give us the battlefield map here view of what we're looking at?
Sure. Well, I mean, the first race that I think most people are considering is in the bag is West Virginia. You know, Joe Manchin's retiring, so West Virginia will obviously become, barring some extreme, act of God, will flip from blue to red. And when you do that, it's going to pretty much be a 50-50 Senate. Obviously, at that point, the White House would matter, right? But I tell people the quickest path to Republicans regaining control is if Manchin gives up his seat, they flip that red, and then the Republicans take the White House. But the problem for Democrats is they're really on defense in most of the other races that are considered competitive. You look at Montana, John Tester, the farmer, he's going to have a pretty tough race. There's a hand-picked Republican, more of an establishment candidate up there, Sheehy, but he's kind of self-funding, former Navy SEAL. He's got about the best resume you could have to run for the Senate. So that race is going to be difficult. I mean, Trump wins that state by double digits. Tester's always kind of had a national, I don't want to say backbone, but he's always had help, right? He's always kind of run in the perfect years where Democrats have done well. That's not the case here anymore. So that'll be interesting. And then you have tons of different toss-ups. You have Arizona, Carrie Lake, the likely nominee for Senate there. You've got Pennsylvania, which I care about, where you've got Dave McCormick is the front runner and likely candidate. And just, if you go across the country, Wisconsin and some of these other states, I think are going to be very competitive. And all Republicans have to do is just pick up one and, maybe even two. But my prediction is Republicans will control the Senate with 52 seats, barring something crazy happening.
Yeah, I mean, and you're obviously working to help make that outcome a reality with your Pennsylvania Chase project. Can you give us an update on that and how it's going out there?
Yeah, and that's why I'm pretty optimistic about the Senate races in PA, Arizona, and Wisconsin. As you know, there are 5 swing states that change the election rules, right? So a bunch of states, look, California and New York changed their rules too, but they're not winnable, right? So if you're a Republican, you're not looking at those states and thinking, hey, we need to adapt our strategy and adapt our plans. No, there are 5 swing states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. And when you look at those, 4 of them have competitive Senate races, right? All of them, except for, let me see here, Michigan, Arizona, all of them except for Georgia. Okay. And so when you think about that, the reason I'm optimistic about a lot of them is because now Republicans, with groups like myself at Citizens Alliance, groups like Charlie Kirk and Tyler Boyer at Turning Point Action, and groups like Scott Presler with Early Vote Action, there's now a plan, right? There's an actionable plan in place for us to match the Democrats' tactics. And so, am I in this thing 100% in Pennsylvania with the Pennsylvania chase just to help Dave McCormick? No. Is Dave McCormick going to benefit from every door that we knock on? Yes, right? All of these Senate candidates are. And obviously the presidential nominee will. And so our plan in PA, just to remind your viewers, Austin, is simple. Democrats get 80% of all mail-in votes. All we're trying to do is take the Republicans from 20% to 33%. We do that by knocking on 500,000 doors, hiring 120 full-time paid canvassers for the last 50 days leading up to the election.
God bless you, Cliff, for that, because we certainly need it. It's time for Republicans to take a different tack. After that walloping that we got back in 2020, I don't want to hear all this talk about a red wave here in 2024. I'm going to keep all my little, juju and my voodoo here in my back pocket. I'm not going to let any black cats walk across my path, and I'm not going to walk under any ladders. And I sure as hell am not going to be saying, oh, it's going to be a red wave. It's going to be a red wave. No jinxes this time. It's time for us to just put our nose to the grindstone and do the hard work like what you're doing out there in Pennsylvania. I'm excited to see it and hear it. But when I hear about Republican dysfunction, obviously here in Missouri, I'm focusing on going to the congressional convention this weekend. I'm hoping to positively contribute to the election efforts here in Missouri, although obviously we're not a swing state and everybody knows what's going to happen here when it comes to the Electoral College. But in Arizona, it is a bit more in doubt. When I'm looking at, when you think about Republican Party dysfunctionality, usually, I think Arizona, because from what I'm hearing out there, their party is in disarray. The Democrats are outfunding them something like 2 or 3 to 1, and Carrie Lake is not leading in the polls out there against her opponent. She's the likely nominee against her Democratic opponent. There's a lot of the work that needs to get done. Talk to us a little bit about Arizona and how you see the field out there.
Yeah, I mean, Radical Rubin will win the Democrat nomination, and with Sinema kind of getting out of the way, I think it will be him versus Carrie Lake. Look, the thing I've told a lot of people is if you're putting your hope and your dreams and your trust in the Republican Party, you will be very, very disappointed. And that is the same even in states that we consider to be extremely red states, right? I mean, I think parties, and look, this is not just Republicans. This isn't just a Republican problem. Democrats understand through different things that they fund to the tune of billions of dollars, that the parties are not always the vessel to advance the message, and the parties are not always the thing to invest in. And if you're an ideologue like you and I, the parties are absolutely not something that I think you should be putting resources into. Now, should you use the party as a vehicle? Absolutely. Whatever can advance the ball, whatever can move liberty down the field, that's what we want to use. But in Arizona, the reason I am hopeful is because of Turning Point Action. Charlie and Tyler are owning Arizona. They've already got people on the ground. They're committed to having over 100 paid ballot chasers. And I think that that's the difference. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize how much the Republican Party failed in each of these states that matter, where Democrats are hiring hundreds of full-time ballot chasers. And Austin, here's why they don't do it. It's so much easier as a Republican consultant to just spend your couple $1 million on a TV ad buy. You got to write the ad, you got to put it together, you got to edit the ad, and then you give $3 million to a guy who buys the ad. That's it. Whereas if you want to hire 100 paid ballot chasers, you got to interview almost 1,000 people. You got to hire twice as many people as you're going to actually need. You're going to have people not show up. You're going to have people disappear after 24 hours. You're going to find somebody in a Dunkin' Donuts who's supposed to be out knocking doors, okay? I didn't understand. People thought of this facade that like, oh, these door programs, you hire all these great activists. We do hire great activists, but the job stinks. The difference is Democrats since 2020 have pushed through it, right? They've realized it stinks. It's the worst gig in the world. It's a seasonal job. People slamming doors in your faces. Who in the right mind wants to do that? So our secret is to use ideology, use that to motivate, use that to look at when we hire. Be careful what I say legally. But no, of course, we look at that when we're hiring. What do you believe? You got to be here for the right cause. And that's what drives our door knockers. But the excuses come from the Republicans. The Democrats know it's messy. They just push through. Turning Point, Citizens Alliance, Early Vote Action, these C4 groups are stepping up and doing what the parties won't do, something we learned from the Democrats.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to Cliff Maloney, former Ron Paul and Rand Paul staffer. He's also the head of the Pennsylvania Chase, going out there chasing after some ballots to try and help Republicans to win out in PA. He's also a fellow Missourian, and we're glad to have him here on the show. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you click that like button and follow the channel. If you're watching us live over at rumble.com and it's your first time here and you're enjoying this content, we stream live at 5 days a week. 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday is the show schedule. So we'd love to have you come back here and join us. Now, looking at the state of the races in terms of the Senate, we don't see a whole lot of Liberty Republicans who are out there. Our good friend and fellow Liberty lover Justin Amash is out there vying for the Michigan spot in the primary. I think he's going to face a bit of an uphill battle as much as I like him, just because I think probably the vote to impeach Trump was death in the current Republican Party, and that's just reality. We've got to be honest about that. And I want to support Justin Amash, but I'm fearful, Cliff, as somebody who's run some losing campaigns before. I'll tell you this: there is something heartbreak. There's people were always like, "Oh, you can continue to run and grow your political operation and continue to fundraise and just be a perpetual candidate." And I could have easily done that, but I'll just tell you this, Cliff. When I saw the looks on the faces of the people who had pinned so much hope and trust in me and faith and were giving, they were taking money from their parents and giving it to my campaign, I was just like, I can't do this to these people. I can't do this because as much as I love self-aggrandizement, as much as I love being famous and being a star and getting invited to the conferences and getting the speaking engagements, at some time we do kind of have to be realistic about our chances here, right? I mean, can I ask you as a fellow Liberty lover, how do we approach the Justin Amash thing? I mean, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I also feel like I have to be honest right now that I'm kind of people are saying, "Oh, Austin, you're just cynical, you're old, you're jaded." No, I'm experienced. Now I know what we're up against. I mean, what is he up against in Michigan?
Let me take you back to 2016. So, Rand Paul wins his reelection, and we had about 100, maybe 200 people that came out and did a big GOTV program for Rand. And I learned a very important lesson that night, Austin, and that is Rand Paul was going to win. It's a red state. It's statewide. He's running for reelection in 2016. But the reaction from all of those youth activists, from the volunteers, from the grassroots, when the results came in, and he won by a significant number. I think it was 14 points. But just the excitedness and just the exhilaration from all these activists, I realized we have a winning problem in this movement. You must win. If you don't win, people get burned out. And this is actually a big thing that's driven me for the last 6 years, I guess now almost 8 years after that night, is realizing you only get people's time, their treasure, and their ability to be involved in a cause until they decide it's not worth it. And so I am going to go even deeper than what you said. I think Justin Amash has a huge problem in that he's got to show a path to victory, right? There's got to be a plan. And you're running for a race where you're going to need tens of millions of dollars. And if he's got that, or maybe his family puts it in, or a donor steps up, that'd be fantastic. But he's got a couple problems. Money's an issue. You've got Peter Meyer in the race, who pretty much has the same exact lane in the eyes of the public, right? We might look at Amash's voting record and say different, but he's got Peter Meyer in the race, and Trump got in early to back kind of this neocon intelligence shill that's also in the race, and Rogers. And so no, I think it's a tough path. I don't want to say this because I'm on here to talk about Senate races, but you know my spiel. This is why, if you're really somebody who doesn't want to get burned out, if you're somebody that was at the AP events or somebody that you have run into, Austin, over the years, focus locally, right? I didn't do that just because I thought strategically we could fight for liberty at the state level much better. I do believe that. But what I really believe is that's where grassroots can win. And if you win, people will stay involved. If you win, more people will get involved. If you win, people will come to our side, they'll come to our ideas. And so to me, that's why we've got to start focusing on things that don't burn people out. We've got to give them some hope. And I think that that's why going local is the way to go.
Yeah, that's why that's why I am local, working very hard here in my, county, becoming a delegate. Last week, I went to a meeting here of the local, Cole County Trump Delegate Club. And I'm hanging out with all these people who this is the first time in their life they've ever been involved in politics. Many of them are, maybe 20, 30 years older than I am. And I'm sitting there, because nobody knows how a president gets elected. I'm explaining to them to the Electoral College. And then when I'm done explaining the Electoral College, they're all like, okay, now let's talk about central bank digital currencies. Donald Trump said something about them, but I don't understand it. So then I'm explaining Bitcoin and I'm explaining central bank digital currencies to these people. And they're like, well, we're going to go vote against that at the convention. And I'm just like, geez, I just moved the needle for liberty right there. I just had some victories. I didn't have to run for Senate or do some big national television interview or anything like that. But, the people in my community now like me. They trust me. And they're like, Austin, you should run for this or run for that. I mean, I really think that you're dead on in terms of like focusing local, right? And then I didn't have to take any money from anybody. I didn't have to get anybody's hopes up, Cliff, because I just can't stand to see more liberty activists who are crying on election night. I mean, I've seen it too many times where their hearts are broken,
Let me say this. I think what you're hitting on is some of the best advice I've ever given or gotten, which is just be normal, right? Talk to people, right? When I got hired by Ron Paul, I don't know if I've ever told this story on your show. When I got hired by Ron Paul, after about a week, I was just this random college kid in PA, and I got an internship for the summer with Ron. And I show up, and after a week, I was comfortable enough. I asked them, I said, why did you guys hire me? And they said, Cliff, you're the most normal libertarian we've ever met in our entire lives. And I always tell people, that was a little alarming to me, right? Because I was new to the movement.
Yeah.
But there is so much in that if you can just be like everybody else, connect with people, and then drown them in it. You don't have to scream at them with a sign that says, wake up, unless it's, wake up America. But you know what I'm saying is you need to reach people where they're at. And I think what you just said is a pure example of like when you can connect with people, the door opens to then talk about all the issues we care about.
Yeah, and there are some Liberty Republicans who are running around the country, not on the Senate level necessarily, but I'm kind of excited about Brandon Herrera, the AK guy down in Texas. I'm not sure if he's got a real shot, but he did make the runoff, and they're attacking him like crazy. So I mean, that's probably one of our better options. Are there any other Liberty Republicans? Oh yeah, I got to meet Dr. Rick Becker. I got to meet him yesterday. He was awesome.
Yeah, the guy started the Bastiat caucus organically. This is like before any of us knew him. Right. And so I always say there's having a good record, and then there's starting the Frederick Bastiat caucus in your state. Rick Becker, I think, is a tremendous opportunity. I think a lot of people should check him out. June 11th, I believe, is his primary. Here's the cool thing about him. If he wins that seat, Austin, he'll be the next Ron Paul, and he'll hold the seat until he dies. It is North Dakota. You know what I mean? It's an R plus 20, 25 seat. So you win that, and it's just, we've got him in there. Somebody to be alongside Massey. He's not an 80%er. He is a 100%er, and those are the folks I like to spend my time on.
Absolutely, Cliff. Well, thank you for introducing us, and we all really enjoyed the interview that we did with him. I'll probably replay it again a little bit later in this week for anybody who might have missed it, but you can also just visit the Wake Up America Show's Rumble page and check out yesterday's interview on the show that I did with Dr. Rick Becker, a surgeon, founder of the Bastiat Caucus, endorsed by Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. I mean, if there's one of us, that's pretty clear. It's one of us. Hey, Cliff, anything else you want to share with our listeners or plug before we let you go, my friend?
Two things, phchase.com if you're looking to knock doors, if you want to do it as a volunteer, if you want to do it full time, or if you want to sponsor a ballot chaser. And you can check me out on Twitter. New handle, @Maloney. Finally got the coveted @Maloney. Thanks so much for being a patriot, Austin.
Hey, thanks so much, Cliff. We appreciate you very much. Keep up the good work. We'll talk to you again real soon. Have a good one. That's Cliff Maloney. Let's give him a round of applause. What'd you guys think? Isn't it nice to get an update Boots on the ground. That's what Cliff Maloney is famous for. Can you imagine what it must be like to have to go through all that hiring process, finding every wild-eyed person who just wanders in is like, yeah, I want to get a job. Yeah, send me around to knock on people's doors. Or if they do seem somewhat normal and then you show up at the local Dunkin' Donuts and they're just sitting there and they're not doing jack squat. I mean, if Pennsylvania flips and it becomes a red state and they end up getting a Republican senator out there and we can thank Cliff Maloney, he's going to be a big hero. Big hero. And where else do you hear interviews like that with people who are actually making a change to try and advance trying to push the needle towards our ideas? What do we believe in? Economic freedom. When do we want it? Right now. Thank you, by the way, to John Rail in KC this morning. He just became a monthly supporter over on rumble.com. We appreciate you very much. Can you become a monthly supporter as well? Can you please bless me money-wise?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise? Please.
Can you suck it?
The Wake Up America show is brought to you by viewers and listeners just like you here at apforlibertyshop.com. When you visit the website, you can make a donation by, well, actually, it's not a donation. You can actually buy some goods over at apforlibertyshop.com and check out our brand new show, Stephanie's new Hustling and Homemaking show, which we just launched yesterday. We are advancing the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. So check it out, apforlibertyshop.com. You want to see Stephanie Peterson's new Hustling and Homemaking show? Before we get Camelia Peterson in here to talk about JK Rowling calling for herself to be arrested after a new hate speech law was passed in her native Scotland, let's hear from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I played this clip a little bit earlier. This is RFK Jr. answering the question on CNN to Aaron Burnett about who he thinks is the bigger threat to democracy. And oh my Lord, is it delicious.
But do you really believe that when people talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses, do you really think that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the Federal Court of Appeals and now before the Supreme Court. It shows that he started censoring not just me. 37 hours after he took the oath of office, he was censoring me. No president in the country has ever done that. The greatest threat to democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics. President Biden, for the first president in history, to use his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. He's weaponizing the federal agencies. Those are really critical threats to democracy.
Donald Trump, of course.
Yeah, they don't like hearing that, do they? Damn, this is good stuff. All right, Camelia Peterson joining us live in 5. Don't go away. I'll play for you the bonus history documentary that you guys have already unlocked in case you missed it a little bit earlier. When we get back, JK Rowling says, arrest me. Come at me, bro, for her hate speech laws that would see her not admitting a woman's a woman. We'll be right back. Austin, your timing on that sucked. Hit the bonus history video. Let's go.
The Wake Up America show's bonus content. This week's theme is the guns that won, documenting the firearms that helped build the American Republic. Today we feature the Colt 1851 Navy revolver, the first truly practical revolver. The Colt 1851 Navy revolver remains a legendary firearm, celebrated for its balance, accuracy, and historical significance. As Colt's second best-selling revolver, it's a classic among enthusiasts and historians alike, signifying a peak in firearms technology of its era. Its design offered a perfect blend of handling, power, and practical accuracy. Notably, this cap-and-ball revolver was produced extensively, with over 250,000 units made. Despite the vast production, only a small fraction was purchased by the federal government during the Civil War. yet it was widely used and prized, especially by Confederate soldiers when they could capture them from the Federals. The 1851 Navy's origin traces back to designs made in 1847, with its actual introduction in 1850. It was initially intended to be named the New Ranger-sized pistol, but was later marketed as the 1851 Navy model. The marketing for the revolver featured an engraved naval battle scene between Mexico and Texas, boosting its appeal, especially in Texas where their guns had sold well before. This revolver outshone its predecessors by marrying power with practicality, making it a favorite over the heavier Dragoons and the smaller 49 pockets. Its introduction significantly impacted the use of single-shot pistols in the West. Among its features, the attachable shoulder stocks on some models added to its versatility and appeal. In its time, the Navy Colt was a substantial advancement in revolver development, noted for its range and accuracy. Even after the introduction of Colt's single-action Army revolver, the Navy model remained popular, with many units converted to fire metallic cartridges. Famous figures like Wild Bill Hickok preferred it, attesting to its reliability and effectiveness. The Navy Colt was not only significant in the American West, but also saw international use by military and civilians alike. It commanded premium prices, especially in areas like the California goldfields, underscoring its high demand and esteemed status. In military service, the Navy Colt proved its worth on numerous occasions, including notable use by Lieutenant John Bell Hood against Comanche warriors. Its reliability and firepower made it a preferred choice for soldiers and officers. Civilians, too, appreciated the Navy model long after its production ceased, relying on it for self-defense and as a practical firearm. Its legacy endured through the introduction of the New Model Navy, or 1861 Navy, although the original 1851 model continued to outsell its successor. Even today, the 1851 Navy Colt's design and historical significance are celebrated, with it being one of the most replicated black powder handguns. Its enduring legacy speaks volumes about its impact and importance in firearms history. This comprehensive look into the Colt 1851 Navy revolver illustrates not just its technological advancements, but its profound influence on military, civilian, and cultural fronts. It remains a symbol of innovation and a testament to the era it represents.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. I'm glad to have you here. Do me a favor, will you? I think that many of you over at rumble.com might be joining us for the very first time. And if so, and if you enjoy the content today, click that follow button before you've got to head out the door. That way you can find us again tomorrow. The Wake Up America show streams live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. The show streams, and it's a great way to start your day. Find out what's happening in the world of news and politics and economic freedom and personal liberty. Speaking of personal liberty, let's talk about JK Rowling, author of the famous Harry Potter novels. Her next book could be Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Thank you, New York Post, for that one. I didn't write that. Well, JK Rowling is now daring police in her native Scotland to arrest her for misgendering transgender people after a new woke hate crime law took effect on Monday. She says freedom of speech and belief are at an end if the accurate description of biological sex is deemed criminal. Joining us now, we call her the JK Rowling of Missouri, Camelia Peterson, joining us live. Good morning, CJ. How you doing, lovely?
Good morning. I'm good. Thank you. And wow, we were talking about, and you played the clip of the young lady speaking at the city council meeting earlier and talking about the need for people to stand up. And I was just thinking that here a while back, somebody said to me, when JK Rowling was once again being based, that, well, she can afford to do that, right? She doesn't really have anything to lose. What are they going to do to her? Because she's such a larger than life figure and she's wealthy. And the thing is that the more I think about that, like those are the people that we need to stand up because they do have a certain degree of immunity that maybe your average Joe doesn't have. But they are the people that we can look to and feel emboldened to take a stand along with them. I mean, much in the same way, that Elon Musk and the things that he has done. So I don't care, like, how popular is or how much money she is, or if that makes it easier for her. I am just thrilled that she has been doing this, and she has been going hard in the paint on this. I mean, like, there is no holding back.
What do we know about this hate speech crime law that Scotland passed?
Well, it's very broad, and basically it is, if a person, commits an offense, if they communicate material or they behave in a manner, and this is what is scary, is like that a reasonable person would consider to be threatening or abusive with the intention of stirring up hatred based on protected characteristics. Noted that, women are not among the protected classes under this law. Maximum penalty is a jail sentence of 7 years. And so it just is, it's so subjective that, can you imagine the pressure that this puts on law enforcement officers to make those judgment calls? Like, who gets to decide your fate?
The person who says that they're offended. It's unbelievable to me. And I know that they want to bring these things to the United States. They're pushing them in Canada as well. And there are plenty of people here in the US. I mean, this obviously speaks to a culture in decline, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and she was talking about the problems that teachers have in schools and how that, with the bullying issues, it's even hard to tell if a kid is actually being a bully, because if some kid comes to you and says, I'm being bullied or whatever, and you investigate it and look into it, and the teacher knows, but she can't really, he or she can't really say it because they're likely to get in trouble because of all of the political correctness, is that there are a lot of times where that child is not being bullied. They're just easily offended. And, kids, can be offensive. Adults can be offensive. But, everybody is so easily offended anymore that the word bullying has almost lost its meaning, along with, a lot of other words like that.
Now, Rowling is not alone in her criticism. Jim Sillars, the former deputy leader of the Scottish National Party, has launched a campaign called Resist the Hate Crime Act and campaign for its repeal. He says that this law inflicts a deep wound on the face of Scottish society. Today, on their own admission, Police Scotland will translate itself from a service into a force for one particular purpose: the pursuit of people who speak their minds. He says, how has Scotland, the seat of the Enlightenment, come to this? Yeah, many people don't know that the Enlightenment values that infused the United States with its libertarian values, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, much of that comes from Adam Smith and the Scottish Enlightenment that brought us the system of capitalism that we enjoy today.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing about this is that they've said, the Scottish government has said that this would provide protection from hate and prejudice without stifling individual expression. How do you do that? There is no way that you can separate that. Like, how do you make a judgment call on what somebody says without stifling their individual expression? And this First Minister, Humza Yousaf, or however you pronounce his name, said that this law is designed to deal with what he calls a rising tide of hatred in society. Maybe they ought to look at what are some of the other factors that are causing this, because it's, I think that limiting what somebody says is probably not going to get to the root of the problem. And he also, in response to the general, criticism that they were getting about this, it's this same rationale we hear all the time about laws, like if you haven't done anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about. And he said, unless your behavior is threatening or abusive or intends to stir up hatred, then you have nothing to worry about in terms of the new offenses being created. And so he says we are creating new offenses, new ways to be offended, and new ways to offend people and get in trouble for it.
Camelia Peterson joining us live on the Wake Up America show. Glad to have you here. If you're enjoying this content, make sure that you click that like button. I know we've probably got a few regulars over in the Rumble chat who are joining us live right now who haven't done that yet. Come on, guys, click the like. Somniferum75 says, not exactly the spirit of Braveheart anymore. I know.
Right. For sure.
Well,
Well,
there's
and
one
I
pop
don't
culture
know.
reference you get. Okay.
I kind of know that one, although I honestly couldn't tell you if I've actually seen it.
Okay. Where were you going to go? What were you going to say?
Well, no, I was going to say, I don't know how much you, because I missed a few pieces of the show earlier. If you went through JK Rowling's list of people that she was calling out yesterday.
No.
Holy cow.
What was she saying?
Oh, she had a whole thread of people that she was highlighting. She has a thread, and she starts with, Scotland's Hate Crime Act comes into effect today. And the first thing she does is she's screen capping, people who have threatened her by force. And then she goes through this whole list with these pictures. And like the first one is this guy with face tattoos, and then on the next picture next to it, it shows him like in a blonde wig and whatever. And she was like, lovely Scottish lass and convicted double rapist Isla Bryson found her true, authentic female self shortly before she was due to be sentenced. Misgendering is hate. So respect Isla's pronouns, please. Love the leggings. And like, there's this whole thread of her doing this over and over again, just loaded with sarcasm. It is amazing.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, she's getting actual violent threats from people. I've pulled it up on the screen right now so our listeners can see it here. She's like detailing, it's been real. I'm going to sleep. Hopefully when I wake up, it's good news. Be nice to yourself. They're holding a hatchet, like an axe over their head in this threat against JK Rowling. Boy, this stuff is serious.
And underneath that, she highlights like, oh my gosh, it's a ton, like maybe almost 10 different women, who, just kidding, they're men, who have, done different things, who have committed crimes as a result of being allowed to be in women's spaces. I mean, horrific crimes. And just is like, it's an amazing thread. Everybody should go look at it.
I mean, I know that on one hand, I don't want her to get arrested. On the other hand, I think if it does, it could be a big turning point for this. Obviously, it'd be a flashpoint, but it could be a huge turning point in this fight back against violent men in women's dresses who want to control the speech and bodies of other women.
Right. And I was just trying to find it real quick. There was another gentleman who's Douglas Murray, also an author, and he came out and he posted about this, and he said, I stand with JK Rowling. And he was like, if the new 500 hate crime champions, in Scotland want to come for her, then they can come for all of us. They won't find many Scottish writers they won't have to arrest. Human beings are not, a hermaphroditic species. So good luck, boys. So like, that's really good to see.
I mean, if she gets arrested, I think that this becomes a massive, massive rallying cry. And I don't know how the justice system works out there, but like once you've been arrested, like you have a case to take to the Supreme Court. Now, I don't expect that there is such a thing as justice, and like there's barely justice here in the United States. So I definitely don't expect that something like that could happen in a place like Scotland. But I don't know. It could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. I guess I don't know how to feel about it in terms of like her actually being arrested for something like this. But I mean, in some sense, she would kind of be a martyr. I mean, not have to die or anything like that. But if she goes to jail, people are going to be up. I mean, they're going to be angry. I don't know what happens, but I mean,
sure. Well, I think it creates a flashpoint. I mean, and it's unpredictable, I think, what it would result in Scotland, but I would hope that for the rest of the world, that it would be even more of a wake-up call, because she is, it's true that there are a lot of people who are Harry Potter fans who have turned on her in very vicious ways, but, she is a beloved author that, millions of children who are adults now grew up with. And it just is, that's that kind of tie, I think is unique and special when it comes to a situation like this.
I tell you, you probably didn't see this, but this was a clip that went viral. It was one of the actresses from Harry Potter did you see the movies? or read the books?
I think I've seen almost all of them.
Did you
I've
read
read
the
all
books?
the books. Hmm.
Okay, so Professor Sprout, the one who teaches them
Yeah.
like the magical plants class and stuff. So the actress who played Professor Sprout was interviewed like a month ago, and a clip went viral where she was talking about. And listen, let me say this to somebody. I've read the Harry Potter books twice. I love the movies. I probably watched them 2 or 3 times through. I might watch them again, of course, with when my daughter Hazel's born. But she was asked about Harry Potter adults, which is kind of like a Disney adults thing. People who are adults but obsessed with Harry Potter. They have Harry Potter themed weddings.
Yeah.
And if I should have had this clip ready to play. Maybe I'll find it after this interview. But Harry Potter adults get married where they're wearing wizarding robes and things. And Professor Sprout, or the actress who played Professor Sprout, is like, I think that it's concerning that these adults are still obsessed with this children's book. She says, it's a children's book. It's like you're supposed to put it away when you're not a child anymore. It's for children. And she goes, I think it's for children. Right? Like, it's kind of like, what if people were like adults, like, I'm gonna have a Clifford the Big Red Dog wedding? Like, what
Well,
would you think about somebody if they decided to get married with like the book, with a theme of Goodnight Moon or something like that? Like, you would think that's pretty odd.
pretty odd. And I actually also think it is pretty odd when people have like Harry Potter themed weddings. But people do themed weddings all the time. Let people be people. A mutual
Now our
friend of
friends
ours.
Duel and Pearl are going to be mad at us because they've got Harry Potter stuff all over their house and they're adults. Oops.
No, like, so totally right. That's totally fine. Like, yeah, we have a mutual friend who just went to like a Gothic themed wedding. They're
Right.
like, there is, just because it's not, a brand.
Well, that's
does it-
different. If it's Gothic themed, it's one thing.
Okay.
But if it's like corporatizing like a Disney wedding thing and you're dressed up as Ariel the Little Mermaid and you're like literally an adult. I mean, but listen, I'm not saying that like it's always bad, and people have hobbies and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to rip on Perla and Duel, and I like Harry Potter.
Weddings.
Right. Star Trek weddings. Do your thing. It's your life, individualism and liberty and freedom. Enjoy it. But like it does speak in some sense to the infantilization mindset that like probably our generation, millennials, and so like have, Camellia, that we kind of like we are sort of like a Peter Pan generation in a way. You know what I mean?
Is it an infantilization mindset or is it an entertainment mindset? You know what I'm saying? Because I actually think, and C.S. Lewis talked about this considerably about, the idea that we should not like, it's part of what having children does for us is it brings back that spirit of childhood that adults tend to lose sometimes. And adults who lose that childlike spirit are really some of the most boring, unpleasant people to be around. And so
It's true. But I mean, like, again, if you're an adult and you're obsessed with children's books and children's novels, it does strike me as someone that, like, here's the thing. If I'm on an airplane and I'm going to have a conversation with the person sitting next to me, for the love of God, if that person wants to talk about Harry Potter for 2.5 hours, I would want to, like, I would blow open the door on the Boeing plane, right? You don't have to wait for diversity, equity, inclusion to have that happen. Not that I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I like Harry Potter World and I've been there to Universal Studios. It's a fun theme park and I tried the butter beer or whatever crap and stuff like that. But like after like 15 minutes or so of Harry Potter conversation, like there are very few people that you can get on an airplane with and have a conversation about adult things with. And it's not to say that you can't have fun, but Camellia, people my age know way more about Harry Potter than they do about the hate speech laws in Scotland. And forgive me if I've grown up and my heart has died and I'm no longer an 80s baby who's like, enjoy. I think I'm a fun guy. The whole theme of this show is 1980s synthwave. I like to party. I wear goofy shirts all the time. There's a giant cock in front of me right here. So I think I'm a fun person. But I also know what the hell's going on in the world. I'm reading the Wall Street Journal. I feel like people my age, like for the most part, they are completely oblivious to anything but like Marvel movies. And God, Camellia, I don't know dick about Marvel movies.
Me neither. It's a matter of balance, though, right? That is the issue with everything in our culture today. Is it is a culture of extremes. We're severely lacking in balance. It's why we can't move forward, as society. It's why we are so polarized. It's why we have such issues with all of the culture wars and the gender wars and everything else, is because we've got one side that's gone to the extreme of empathy, and we have the other side that's gone to the extreme, in the opposite direction. And there's no balance. And, you are looked down on and ridiculed if you see the balance in things and you see the nuance and you go for that middle ground, because it is reasonable and rational, and it is the way to get things done. And it is the way to relate to your fellow humans. But we haven't done that. And I think we see that here too, is that there's not that balance that you can totally maintain that, retain that childlike spirit as you're growing older, while still gaining the maturity that you should be, getting as an adult, to where you are, life is real, and you have to pay the bills, and the government affects your life. So you should probably pay attention to that. And not just because it affects you in the here and now, but looking ahead to how it's going to affect your children and your children's children and other people's children. We don't have a legacy mindset anymore. And I think that's a big part of our problem, is we are not, future forward thinking for the most part.
Listen, when I was growing up, I was a big fantasy novel reader. I always read fiction books. I loved reading Stephen King's horror novels, and I can't wait to share Grimm's fairy tales with my daughter, and to read to her all of the mystical, magical, wonderful world of Walt Disney, as a kid. But I think you've nailed this. Maybe we were talking about this before the show started. You and I were chatting about the education system. I remember distinctly in some of my early educational situations, I felt held back by my peers in the literature and English and just basically the arts, because you could only go as fast in class as the slowest student.
Yes.
And so what happened was that I remember that at one point I was so frustrated because I think I read like the entire curriculum for the entire year in like a couple of months, and there was still like a few more months to go. And the teacher had to spend all of their time working with the students who were the slowest in class, and they had to have them stand up and read out loud, which was of course painful and embarrassing for them, to try and like get them to go through. And I'm so frustrated because I'm just like, the teachers could tell I'm bored. They finally let me out of class to just leave and go and read. So they're just like, that was like my like literature and English time was just reading time. But like, I don't think I kind of understood the dynamics of that now in our public education system. In a way, the way our classrooms are set up, like a teacher can only teach as fast as the slowest person in the class.
Right.
And if you actually have students who are even mediocre or can excel to to a extent, they really are harmed by that.
For sure. We teach to the lowest common denominator. And we see this in schools now. Some of the schools are even taking the approach where they're starting to eliminate honors level classes, or, those classes that are for students who are learning at that faster pace. And that is so incredibly harmful. And I think one of the things I was saying to you, and this is, everybody's like, oh, show me the data and whatever, and the numbers for it and the studies and this and that. And there's not going to be any particular studies or data that support this. But I think if you are able to observe the world around you and the where our culture has come, I think this idea that we put a bunch of kids of the same age in the same classroom for 8 months out of their lives, most of the days, for most of those days, like it really is this kind of, it gets to be kind of this mob mentality with all of this peer pressure, with people who are, for the most part, all on the same maturity level. They're not getting any mentoring or examples from older children as they are maturing to look at as role models. And they're not having to do that for younger children. The value of kids to be examples to younger children and to help them and model good behavior for them is just like incalculable. And we are missing that so much. And I think it's really been to our detriment in where we are as a culture right now, because that education system we have been immersed in that Dewey Decimal System for so long. And we have, like, it has stifled innovation and advancement, among children, because exactly what you said, we've taught to the lowest common denominator.
For sure. We're speaking to Camellia Peterson. Let's give it up for CJ. CJ, can I throw you for a loop a little bit here and give you a topic that you weren't prepared for and that's going to make you very uncomfortable?
Why not? Wouldn't be the first time.
Okay. Okay. So we were having this conversation last week, and I didn't have time to get into it. I was kind of on a tear on Friday night. I don't know if you remember, but some conspiracy chick online was coming after me, and I was like, I refuse to be lectured to by a 3.
I did see a lot of that. I was like, I told you, like, those are those times where I'm like, step back, like, oh, Austin is on a roll. I'm just gonna leave it alone.
So anyways, I was just on a tear because the conversation had begun surrounding, and this was a debate between just Pearly Things and Michael Knowles. And the conservative trad cons, if you will, like, traditional conservatives and things like that, I was kind of accusing them of LARPing to an extent, which Pearly Davis has said the same thing. It's this whole concept of conservative feminists, right? Which are really, they're in a lot of ways, they really are just feminist light, because Pearly is calling them out, right? So the trad con, women who grab their big old boobies and they squeeze them up in the dresses and they're like, I'm a traditional conservative. Look at my giant jugs jiggling in my videos.
They're just baking a cake. Just baking cakes.
Just bake the cakes. But yet, here's the thing, as a libertarian Republican and as someone who, believes that you should be able to do as you please, provide you harm no one else, I'm not bothered by the giant jiggly trad cons with their boobs everywhere, but it's the hypocrisy, really, that strikes me the most. That you have, and then on that hypocrisy of I'm a social conservative traditional wife, let me show my boobs on the TikToks, on one hand, and then on the other hand, when it comes to the question of divorce courts, right? We're all having this question about Steven Crowder and his wife, and it's become this ugly divorce that's in public, and you have people lining up on both sides. Some people who hate the Daily Wire are chiming in. Some people who hate Steven Crowder are chiming in. And Pearly Things, here was my comment that she reposted that got so much hate. I said, Pearly Things, I think the reason why there's so much hate of her, Pearl, is because she doesn't give in to the circling of the wagons that occurs whenever a woman is contradicted in this world. Whenever someone doesn't agree with a woman's opinion about things in public, how dare they? Pearl doesn't circle the wagons. Whether you're a right-winger or a left-winger, if you're a female, it seems that in modern society that feminism is the norm amongst both of the major governing ideologies. Whether you're a liberal female or a conservative female, they're all the same feminists. One's feminist light. Conservatism is progressivism driving the speed limit. So what is conservative feminism? It's liberal feminism, just 20 years behind. Pearl, and this is where people were upset with me, Pearl doesn't circle the wagons. She's not a feminist. She says women should have to get a...
Disagree, but okay.
You don't think that she's a feminist?
I think she's a feminist.
Oh, okay. So when she calls out the child support, child care system, the family court system, and things like that, like, you think that she comes down on the side of the feminists and things like that?
I think that she is a feminist because of how she does it and because of why she does it. And Pearl has not always been, on this kick. And I would fully expect once, this runs its course, this red pill bit runs its course, she will pivot to something else that is much more blatantly feminist. But this is for her, this, Pearl's a little triggering for me because, it annoys the crap out of me what she does.
That's why I like her.
No. But Continue. The thing is like, the reason I say she's feminist is because this is like she profits from this, and there is what she does I view as actually being far more harmful than doing any kind of good as far as for men or the masculinity movement, because nothing productive comes out of that. And you can say, oh, she raises awareness and she calls people out and she makes the women mad, but the point is like, there are other people who've been doing that for a long time, but the reason that she is getting this attention is because of the way in which she is doing it. This is profitable for her. It doesn't hurt her feelings.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that line of argumentation. It didn't matter. It wouldn't matter if you're successful and profitable. You're going to get called out as a grifter. You're going to get called out. But I mean, a lot of that I think is jealousy, right? That people are jealous that she is successful at doing the same thing that they want to do. She's actually successful in advancing red pill. Maybe.
Well, it depends on how you define success here, right? So my big beef with Pearl is that because she kind of has a one track, she's just got one track in how she approaches this. There's nothing productive that comes out of it in terms of actually help people internalize what we would call red pill principles or things like that. She actually creates more simps with how she does things than not. I mean, if you want, like, you can't question anything she does.
Okay, potentially, right? When she's got a huge ego, right? She doesn't want people to criticize her, so she's going to have some simps for her. That's true. But here's the thing, what you've got liberal feminists, and you know what they believe, right? But like, aren't the conservative feminists really the most annoying with their army of simps out there? The bald dudes with the pictures of them in the fishing boat. Like, no, you're beautiful and you're perfect in your tens, because of the hypocrisy that's involved from the conservative feminists, right? They circle the wagon. They here's the thing. If Pearl can be accused of that, the conservative women of the movement who are out there showing, maybe some of them are former porn stars who are out there, raging against feminism, are the biggest liars. Because
100%, yes, 100% agree.
Because when the time comes for their divorce, they're going to milk their husbands for every dime. They're going to go for full custody. They're out there attacking Steven Crowder. He's paying her. He's supposed to pay her $25,000 a month in child support. Who needs $25,000 a month in child support, Camelia? For what? For what?
Right.
What did Jeff Bezos' ex-wife do to earn? Do you know who the top 5 billionaire females are in this country? What they did to earn it? They got divorced.
They married up.
Yeah, they got divorced. Is that really how it ought to be? Is that really the kind of system that we live in? And why, if so, why are conservative females actually defending that system when they claim to be doing otherwise?
Well, so I agree. Like, the conservative feminism is absolutely, hypocritical. And it's funny you bring this up because I literally had this conversation with someone yesterday where we were talking about, and I was telling her, I think that the church has failed men in this regard, and that the message that they have gotten for so many years, like you look back to the Promise Keepers and the oath, this and that and whatever, and there was no, like, even in the church, there's been a weird dichotomy and not a balance to it where, men are said, you need to revere women, be the husband that you need to be and whatever. But on the other hand, there's also been this unhealthy message of, you are the head of the household and you tell your wife to do, and she is supposed to what to do, and she is supposed to submit. And so I think men have been getting these really mixed messages from the church. Well, I mean, it's this lack of balance, right? I mean, like, if you genuinely love your wife and you have a healthy relationship, those things are not going to be issues. But it goes back to this problem of people not doing the work on themselves individually. And that is, I think, where, we have failed in the church, in bringing boys up in the messaging that they hear and in our culture. I mean, I've said before,
do you know why I think that has happened with the church when turning these conservative men into simps? I think it's because they recognize that more men have been walking away from the church, and when they look out into the pews, that it's filled with women, and so these services have become geared towards women, and because they know that it's the women who are going to drag the butts into the pews of the men to get them to come in, which is why you get these new life pastors who are coming out who are talking about, like, it doesn't matter what a woman's sexual past is, despite the fact that the reality is that men want to know and are interested in a woman's prior history with men. As offensive as women find that to be, men are interested in women's past and women are interested in men's future. But nobody has the balls to say things like this except for people like Pearlie Davis. Do they, Camelia?
I think there are plenty of people who are saying it, but again, I think that the intent. Okay, so
name one red pill activist who is anywhere near the top. Doesn't have to be like right next to Pearlie Davis in terms of clout, but who is saying the same things that Pearlie Davis is saying, but in a different way.
The people who Pearl Davis has been getting her information from, none of this is original to her. She regurgitates talking points that she learns from people like
the thing is like, do you think I came up with these theories of economics and liberty?
No,
I didn't write the Constitution. We are all slaves, products of some defunct economist. How many times do I quote Ludwig von Mises or Hayek on this show? Those aren't my ideas. I'm just regurgitating them. So she didn't come up with the red pill ideas. So,
no, I think
this is just slimy, Camelia, slimy.
Here's the difference, though, and this is something that is a belief I have personally. I think that she has no business saying all of this to men because she is a woman. I mean, maybe that makes me sexist, but as for the same reason that I also think that women have.
The point of this whole conversation, Camelia, she's defected from the enemy camp. This is the thing. The reason why I like Pearl, and I think she's got guts, is because she refuses to circle the wagon. Exactly what you're saying is a bad thing, I'm saying is a good thing, because she refuses to get other women's back simply for the fact that they're women. And what we have in society is a simp culture where you have women who are over-empowered. We've taken female empowerment to the point to where you are overpowered in society, and you want to have your cake and eat it too. You want to have. Well, let me ask you a question, Camelia. Pick one. Here's your survey for the day. Would you rather have equality or chivalry?
Oh, well, I mean, equality is not realistic. I don't like.
You cannot have both, Camelia. You cannot have both. Do you want equality or chivalry?
Well, I guess, if I'm having to choose, if I'm having to choose, I'm going to choose equality right now, because I think chivalry gives that false sense of niceness.
Okay, good. That's fine. And, you're a libertarian female, and, I believe in your equality, but you do not get to have both. You can't have both in a functioning society. You cannot have a woman who wants to, on one day, you're going to pay for dinner, and on the next day, I'm going to take $25,000 a month from you, in the child support, because I had to go and work a job, and I had to go be a stay-at-home mom and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, if you want to have equality, that means that, we'll live in a system where there will be child support for women who go and don't have a job for the thing. But if you want chivalry, if you want to be treated like a woman, if you want to have a relationship that is not equal in the sense that a man is going to be a man and a woman is going to be a woman and fulfill those traditional gender roles, then you have to accept the consequences, and the negative consequences of that might be you went and you got into a bad marriage and you picked the wrong husband, and you have to suffer the consequences of that, meaning that you don't get $25,000 a month in child support just because you made a bad decision about your man. If women are not incentivized to suffer the consequences of the men that they choose in this life, they will continue to choose out the losers and churn out the children that become the plague and the pestilence that we have in this country of low IQ children who become violent criminals, who rob stores, who are creating the degradation of our society, because women do not have to suffer the consequences of their bad behavior. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think that the answer lies somewhere in the middle, and that's pretty simplistic. But you know what I mean. But I'm going to point something out here. You say Pearl's the only one. Pearl's the only one who is bucking the trend, or that you say is bucking the trend, because she gets a lot of attention for it with the way that she does it. She's not the only one. There have been plenty of us out there who have been going to bat for men for way more years than Pearl ever has. And the thing is that, you know what? What Pearl doesn't do is she doesn't send men to where they can get good, actionable things that they can do to make their lives better instead of wallowing in their hate for women and not doing a single dadgum thing about it, except for continuing to just, live that life and go nowhere and do nothing but gripe about it and, simp for Pearl.
Well, Camelia, do you agree with me that it is unrealistic to expect that you can have equality and chivalry, that the concept of like a traditional relationship or between a man and a woman in the modern sense, that you can't really have both at the same time, that women really are pushing for both, they're voting for both, they're demanding the legal system cater to them on the one hand, and then they also in society they want the red carpet rolled out for them in terms of a relationship. Don't you think women are setting themselves up for unprecedented levels of unhappiness and loneliness in this modern situation, and men are walking away?
You bet. I mean, we have set up women up for failure with unrealistic expectations, in saying that, in this idea that there are no trade-offs in life. And life is one big, huge series of trade-offs, no matter what gender you are. And if women want to prioritize careers, and their own personal lives and not getting married until later in life because they want to advance those careers and have fun and have those child-free years, like the trade-off is that you pay for that, later on in life, and you don't get, you might not be able to have children. You might not be able to find that husband and have that, happy marriage to make your life complete along with your career.
Right, but you want equality in your relationship, not chivalry. So what that means, Camelia, is that when the wolf comes to the door, you mount up, you grab your AR-15, and you're going downstairs with your man to fight the bad guy, right?
I hope if you have children that somebody stays back to protect the children, but by George, that woman better be able to grab that gun and protect those children too. So,
Camelia Peterson, this was a great conversation. I appreciate it. It looks like the Rumblers are joining us in the hundreds this morning. We appreciate that. 652 people watching us live. I think it's probably because of the topic matter. We've managed to keep people's attention this entire time here to discuss about that. Do I have you for a couple more minutes though, Camelia, on one other thing?
Sure, why not?
Okay, you're allowed to leave, obviously. Real quick, the question of the paternity test, this was another big debate, right? The question of the automatic paternity test, right? Because Michael Knowles and Pearl Davis were arguing about this, and Michael was outraged because Pearl suggested that we should have an automatic paternity test with the issuance of every birth certificate. And he says, I don't like that, because he says, what you're doing is you're assuming you're calling my wife a whore. And I think actually that's not true. If a man requests the paternity test, then there is the implication. Sure. There's no implication there if it's just part of the birth certificate process, right? If it's just an automatic part of it. See, what I'm suggesting here is that we shouldn't place the burden on the men to have to ask for it. It should just be automatic. If you're going to have a birth certificate and the associated responsibilities, and don't you think though that, it's not to say that Michael Knowles' wife is a whore. I'm sure she's a lovely lady, but don't you think that incidences of whoredom would necessarily be reduced in such a situation where someone would actually be accountable for just the absolute minimum of accountability for their behavior?
Okay.
If you've done nothing wrong, you have nothing to hide.
You knew I was going there. But here's something. You said earlier that women need to have the responsibility for the choices that they make and the men that they choose. Maybe we need to flip that coin, and men need to, take responsibility for the women that they choose. But here's, the whole, yeah, if you don't have anything to worry about, you don't, whatever. If you're not guilty, you don't have anything to worry about. Let's make another law, like, okay, like that is so not libertarian.
But the
And
law is,
I do think
I get it, but the law is already such that, a man could sign a birth certificate for a child that's not his, raise it for 18 years, and then the wife could be like, hey, by the way, that wasn't your child, and I'm leaving you, and I'm taking everything at 18 once the kid's 18. It happens.
Sure, it does happen. The incidents I think are fairly low, but I think that we can't eliminate. I mean, it's like anything else. You can't eliminate the risk entirely. But I do think, and I actually was looking this up the other day because I wondered after I saw something posted, is it legal for a man to request a paternity test without the mother's consent? Like, can you go take a swab from the baby's, cheek or whatever and submit it, because you can do that on, through mail or whatever, even but a lab. And will that hold up in court? And the answers were a little mixed on that, but it appears to be perfectly legal. But the thing is that
that places the responsibility on the man. Go ahead.
Right. But if a man even has that thought that he is questioning the paternity, there are much large underlying issues there.
True, no doubt. But that's why I'm saying, that's why the point of this conversation is to take that responsibility off of the man's shoulders and to place it on where it properly lies, which is in the situation where we have family courts. We're in the situation where if you sign the birth certificate, even if you don't know, all of the pressure is placed on the man to hope that his wife didn't cheat or all that stuff. We should take that pressure off of their shoulders, right? Because of the situation we have, and just make it a simple one-size-fits-all solution. Before you sign the birth certificate, here are the results of your paternity test. Okay, no problem, Mr. Jackson, right? We shouldn't have to worry about that, right? It should not be on men to have to have the burden of the responsibility to make that suggestion because of the implication that it has on the man of what he's asking or saying. Here's the thing. There's far too many double standards where women get the benefit of the doubt in the situation. Here is a situation where perhaps take the responsibility of off of the man's shoulders. And if you're going to have a certificate of birth, then there should be a legitimacy claim on that one in order to ensure that nobody has to worry about that paternity, right? And then nobody's calling anybody a whore. We're all just making sure that everybody who is paying and taking care of the kids that belong to them. I think that's reasonable. I think that's fair.
It's just like there's just like my very core rebels against that because I think that it is so.
Because you are a woman.
That's right, but I think it is. That's why.
Because
that's why men and women. That's why men and women need each other because we complement each other in these areas and not compliment with an I, but because men don't get enough of the I compliments anyway. Totally different aside. Sorry, but the thing is like that to just internalize in our culture yet another thing of guilt, assuming guilt before innocence.
Assuming guilt. There's no assuming of guilt.
There it is.
Just, no. Well, here's the thing. No, it's not. We have an assumption of paternity. Why is there an assumption of paternity?
Well, it's like having a breathalyzer. It's like breathalyzer stops.
Just because no, it's not. No, it's not. A breathalyzer stop. You choose to drink and drive. You get behind the wheel. It's one thing. It's a completely separate thing. It's a red herring. This is an assumption of paternity. If a man is in the hospital with a woman, the assumption is that that's the father. You give him the birth certificate to sign. He's on the hook, regardless of whether or not he is actually the father. This is not uncommon. I mean, I have seen some statistics. It's hard. You don't. How many bastard children, as a percentage of the population, do you think that there are, Camelia?
I don't think it's that high.
You don't think it's that high? You really think that women are all floating above us and that they do not commit adultery at a very high rate?
I don't think that.
You really, you think that think that women are not out there committing adultery in any significant numbers?
I think plenty of women are. I also think men are.
Okay,
but
well, yes, but it's quite. There's no the difference between men and women is men can't have babies, Camelia. So it's not like when it comes to the paternity, like when the mother has the child, it's pretty obvious that it's hers. Okay, what we're talking about here is the legal burden that is placed on a man because the woman points at him and says, "You are the father," regardless of the scientific question that is involved. I guess like
it just seems like an unhealthy way to continue moving our culture in that trajectory of taking, you take away, you're trying to mitigate all risk in human relationships. And if we're going to focus our efforts on things, we should be focusing our efforts on the laws that are making, that are unjust toward men. And people are doing that. I will say there have been a lot of advancements made in that. And I think a lot of the statistics you see thrown around, honestly, in the circles when they talk about the divorce rate and the illegitimate children, things like that. Those things definitely happen.
So
they are not statistically happening.
You don't think that the incidences of adultery and children born out of wedlock to husbands that are not the father, you think that is statistically insignificant?
I don't know that it's insignificant. I will tell you that I had somebody throw at me online, here a week or two ago that, well, 30%, it threw out this like 30% number of men that opted, they did this study. And so 30% of men who opted in to have their paternity tested with their kids, like 30% of those were not the father. And the thing is, like, I'm sorry, but this is not a good study. You can't, if you've got people who are opting in to have paternity tests, there's already this underlying supposition, and there are reasons for that. And so that number is going to be so skewed. 30% is not going to even be close because your baseline is already skewed to begin with.
Stephanie and I were talking about this last night. It's funny because I've triggered Joni Rankin really mightily this morning over the chat. Joni, we love you. She says, AP, are you going to demand a paternity test? No, you don't understand. I'm not. The whole point of me bringing up this topic is to say that it shouldn't have to be on the man to demand the paternity test. It should not have to. That burden should not have to be on the man's shoulders. That he has to tell his wife that he's suspicious of her. The whole point of this conversation is to say it should be automatic when a birth certificate is filed. Do you want your father's name to be on a birth certificate? Oh, okay. Well, how unlibertarian of you to assume that there should be a process as a birth certificate or what have you. In a true libertarian, no laws, anarchistic sort of thing, if a woman decides to have a baby, that's her baby. And if the man leaves, nobody's there to force him to pay up, right? There's no alimony.
Can I just say,
wait a minute, under an anarchist system of no laws, you women are on your own if you have a baby. That's how it used to be.
I mean, right. That's why I think that, when we talk about the founding of the United States and the founding fathers and, the way they wrote the Constitution and different things like that, which one of them that said that basically you have to, it requires a virtuous people, so to speak. Like there has to be some kind of moral baseline to that. I think that falls into that category. But I totally lost my train of thought. I was going to say
Steffi said last night that she would gladly submit to a paternity test because she doesn't care. And I know that it's not a big deal because that woman never leaves the house anyway. So it's not like I have any suspicion. But the whole point is that I shouldn't have to ask. It should be, and it's not about me anyway. It's about whether or not we live in a system that is heavily skewed in the family court system towards women. And all I'm asking is that no man ever has to pay for a child that is not his if he does not do so willingly. That is a crime committed against a man.
I absolutely 100% agree. And can I say, I thought of it, it's like, we are completely making the argument here for prenuptial agreements. We need to normalize prenups.
Yeah, probably true.
Destigmatize them.
But here's the thing. It's the same stigma as asking for a paternity test, right?
I don't know. Maybe to me, it's like but with a prenup, it's kind of like insurance. You're thinking about things ahead of time. And I know people have problems with that because you're like, oh, that's assuming that they're going to do this.
It's right. The same thing. What are you calling me, a whore? I'm going to step out on you or something like that, right? How dare you, right? It's because you ladies, you want to have your cake and eat it too. You want your equality and you also want your chivalry. You want to be able to get married and blow up to 600 pounds, but your man's got to be 6'6", well hung, and he's got to stay 220. Camellia Peterson, we've got to run. This has been a lot of fun.
Have a great day, everyone.
Is there anything else you want to say before we let you go? Thanks for letting me beat up on you, by the way. I know John's going to love that.
Yeah, oh gosh. No, Cheryl was like, we go ever onward, forward in the quest to balance liberty and the law.
You know, we love you very much. Thank you for your time today. We'll see you on Thursday.
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a good one, Camelia Peterson. Give it up. All right. Well, did you guys enjoy that conversation today? That was a lot of fun, huh? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show streams live every 5, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time is the show schedule. So make sure that you click that follow button before we leave today. When you click that follow button, a child finds out who is their father. Oh, goodness.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
The Wake Up America show is brought to you by viewers and listeners just like you. And you can help support this show by visiting ap4libertyshop.com. Don't forget, my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife, who is pregnant with absolutely definitely my child, has a brand new show of her own. It's called Hustling and Homemaking. And if you haven't watched the video yet, you've got to head to the website now, ap4libertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, ap4libertyshop.com. Head on over there. Put a few Javier Malay things in your cart. Check out Stephanie's video, Hustling and Homemaking, and subscribe to our channel right now. We'll see you guys tomorrow. It's been a great show. Thanks so much for enjoying it. And please just, don't take everything so seriously, okay? We love you, Joni Rankin. We'll see you guys tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Wake Up America show's bonus content. This week's theme is The Guns That Won, documenting the firearms that helped build the American Republic. Today we feature the Colt 1851 Navy revolver, the first truly practical revolver. The Colt 1851 Navy revolver remains a legendary firearm, celebrated for its balance, accuracy, and historical significance. As Colt's second best-selling revolver, it's a classic among enthusiasts and historians alike, signifying a peak in firearms technology of its era. Its design offered a perfect blend of handling, power, and practical accuracy. Notably, this cap-and-ball revolver was produced extensively, with over 250,000 units made. Despite the vast production, only a small fraction was purchased by the federal government during the Civil War, yet it was widely used and prized, especially by Confederate soldiers when they could capture them from the Federals. The 1851 Navy's origin traces back to designs made in 1847, with its actual introduction in 1850. It was initially intended to be named the New Ranger-size pistol, but was later marketed as the 1851 Navy model. The marketing for the revolver featured an engraved naval battle scene between Mexico and Texas, boosting its appeal, especially in Texas, where their guns had sold well before. This revolver outshone its predecessors by marrying power with practicality, making it a favorite over the heavier Dragoons and the smaller 49 pockets. Its introduction significantly impacted the use of single-shot pistols in the West. Among its features, the attachable shoulder stocks on some models added to its versatility and appeal. In its time, the Navy Colt was a substantial advancement in revolver development, noted for its range and accuracy. Even after the introduction of Colt's single-action Army revolver, the Navy model remained popular, with many units converted to fire metallic cartridges. Famous figures like Wild Bill Hickok preferred it, attesting to its reliability and effectiveness. The Navy Colt was not only significant in the American West, but also saw international use by military and civilians alike. It commanded premium prices, especially in areas like the California gold fields, underscoring its high demand and esteemed status. In military service, the Navy Colt proved its worth on numerous occasions, including notable use by Lieutenant John Bell Hood against Comanche warriors. Its reliability and firepower made it a preferred choice for soldiers and officers. Civilians, too, appreciated the Navy model long after its production ceased, relying on it for self-defense and as a practical firearm. Its legacy endured through the introduction of the New Model Navy, or 1861 Navy, although the original 1851 model continued to outsell its successor. Even today, the 1851 Navy Colt's design and historical significance are celebrated, with it being one of the most replicated black powder handguns. Its enduring legacy speaks volumes about its impact and importance in firearms history. This comprehensive look into the Colt 1851 Navy revolver illustrates not just its technological advancements, but its profound influence on military, civilian, and cultural fronts. It remains a symbol of innovation and a testament to the era it represents.